I think democracy is a catalyst for terrorism. It's not an antidote. No. It's a catalyst, especially in Nigeria.
Okay.
The reason why we are having Nigerian Delta militancy, Boko Haram, and I don't want to be misquoted, but democracy has a great role to play in the evolution of terrorism in Nigeria. Why do I say so? I know the history of terrorism, how it started. I mean, the Boko Haram, how it started in Borno region. It was just a governor that educated people to basically create fear in the opponent. Come if you don't do my will, then we're going to take you out. And it worked. So he became governor and basically abandoned the boys in the bush. And those ones have to survive. So what did they do? They start attacking people, attacking banks, kidnapping people, collecting money, because they have to survive basically. Because the person that brought them to do the job, the job has been done, and he has put them aside. So that's democracy for you, okay? Nigerian militancy is the same. An aspirant, maybe governorship, one senator, aspirant, presidential aspirant, we gather some people, arm them to intimidate the opponent after winning the election, blah, blah, blah. So that is democracy, the way we practice here. And it's not that different from what is happening in America.
Okay.
The only place you see democracy in action for me is in the Nordic region. So we have, the Scandinavian countries where they have been able to achieve a very high level of integrity when it comes to democracy. Okay. But in Nigeria and Africa, it's the catalyst for all the problems we have now. And I think we should be able to change the way we govern ourselves. We can't copy what is happening in America. America has just two parties. In Nigeria, you have many parties. And when you see the more parties you have in a country, the more divided that country is.
Yes.
Look at what happened in the last election in Nigeria. You have Obi, all the Igbo say Obi must rule. You have Tinubu, all the Yorubas, yes, that's you have Atiku and all the people do not. So you keep, it is the catalyst for division. And the longer you run democracy the way we run in Nigeria, the more the chances of division in the country. As it were now, we have a lot of nationalities trying to break away from Nigeria. And it's as a result of the democracy we practice. The Southeast say they want to be there. Since their own son did not win, then we want to go on our own. Despite that, it's Tinubu that is ruling. They are not very convinced that the North is still not controlling the power in Nigeria. And this is where I think I will advise the country to look critically into the current situation. As a practitioner in the field of security and intelligence gathering, I know that this country is sitting on a table of compound. As a result of the democracy, the kind of democracy we practice. So to answer your question, I think it's a catalyst and it's something that people should come together and think about. How do we practice democracy that will not hurt the system?
It is a wise saying that any house that is divided against itself cannot stand. For united we stand and divided we fall. The main goal of ECOWAS is to promote economic cooperation among member states to raise living standards and promote economic development. ECOWAS has also worked to address some security issues by developing a peacekeeping force for conflicts in the region, such as ECOMOG. The Economic Community of West African States Monitoring Group, ECOMOG, was a West African multilateral armed force established by the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. ECOMOG was a formal arrangement for separate armies to work together. It was largely supported by personnel and resources of the Nigerian Armed Forces, with sub-battalion strength units contributed by other ECOWAS members: Ghana, Guinea, Sierra Leone, the Gambia, Liberia, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and others. Some of the peacekeeping engagements of ECOMOG in the West African region include the deployment of troops to Liberia during the Civil War from 1989 to 1997, 1997 in Sierra Leone to stop the Rough Rebellion, and 1999 in Guinea-Bissau to end the Guinea-Bissau Civil War. It is unfortunate that the countries that make up the ECOWAS have been impoverished by those who are averse to the unity of the African countries, as well as the sustenance of a strong and united military formation like ECOMOG. The current developments in the ECOWAS, where some of the French-speaking countries like Niger, Burkina Faso and Mali have pulled out of the body and jettisoned democracy by opting for a military rule, is disastrous and an attempt to further weaken the body by France with the sole aim of making the body become a shadow of itself.
The case of weakening the cohesive initiatives of the African countries can also be seen in the African Union, where the organization or body has been crippled by mostly economic reasons, which has rendered it inactive and made it fitting for description as a toothless bulldog. African Union was established to achieve, among many other things, greater unity, cohesion, and solidarity among the African countries and African nations, to defend the sovereignty, territorial integrity, and independence of its member states, to accelerate the political and socio-economic integration of the continent, to promote and defend African common positions on issues of interest to the continent and its people. The situation that the AU finds itself in now is what makes it fitting for description as a dead lion. Democracy is being used as bait to enslave the African countries and bring them under what can be described as neo-colonialism.
This is substantiated by how most of the African countries that claim to be democratic have found it difficult to meet the needs and aspirations of their citizens, giving room for the practice of democracy without dividends. This development also calls for an answer about what the assessment is of the regional organizations such as ECOWAS and the African Union in relation to the progress and retrogression of the African continent, even as we wait to hear from the horse's mouth.
I want to be kind to the two organizations, but I don't want to use words that comes to my mind. It's a shame, let me just be mad, that African Union has become a place where the Democrats, the diplomats, sorry, not Democrats, they just go to collect extra codes and collect money and just funfair. It's a shame. I remember Gaddafi was so strong that the African Union have maybe like United States of Africa, where we can have free movement of people, goods, services. But it will not work because that will not be in the interests of the world powers. When I say world powers, I'm talking about the big economies, because this is their farm. This is where they come to take their resources. So if African Union is able to stand, then it's not going to be in their interest, because you will not have free access to resources in the DRC Congo, as they presently have. They will not have free access to resources in the Zagreb region, because you have to contend with the African Union if you want to take anything out. The issue of cohesion within the AU is going to be the panacea for development in Africa. ECOWAS is jinxed, since the ECOMOG, the Economic Community of West African State Monitoring Group, that we did in Liberia and Sierra Leone. Since Nigeria did that, the global power felt that we are becoming a threat to their interests in Africa, particularly France. And the monetary aspect, the free movement, all the good programs of ECOWAS, they make sure that it never happens. We're supposed to be spending in ECOWAS. The French ensure that the Francophone countries in West Africa are still spending the money they don't spend anymore. CFA, they don't spend CFA anymore. They are now spending euro. And they pin down all the West African countries to be spending CFA, which they don't spend again. Tie their economy, 80% of their GDP is tied to France. And why should they allow them to have common currency in ECOWAS? So I don't need to say more, but it implies that ECOWAS has basically almost failed. We just call on the chairman of ECOWAS at this point to put his hands together and bring Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger back to the fold and try to understand that the challenge they are having is from outside Africa because of the resources in this area and how these people have continue to enslave the people of West Africa in order to develop Paris, London, and perhaps New York. So they should understand that it's not rocket science to know that these people come to disorganize you, make sure you are not talking to each other. I mean, look at Nigeria. It's the only country speaking English in West Africa. This has happened since 1884, the Berlin Conference. Clever. Cameroon to our east, French. Chad to the north, French. Niger to the north, French. To the west, Benin Republic, French speaking. Then they reinforce it with Togo, French speaking. Before you can get to Ghana, that speaks English. Why can't, are we being tied? Is our brain being tied? Why can't we, dissolve this cancer that was planted, some years back? I don't blame the foreign powers. They will always pursue their interests. Anybody will pursue their interests. So their interest is to ensure that we don't speak one language, we don't trade together. And if you think you are smart and you want to trade with Benin or Togo, they are going to fraud Benin and Togo with goods and services that will kill your own economy in Nigeria. Because they're going to throw in all subsidized goods. Chicken will be maybe like $0.50, and your farmer cannot produce chicken at $0.50. So they will fraud the place and destroy your economy, make your economy dependent on them. It's a very complex situation. So ECOWAS and AU need reforms. The people in Africa should open their eyes. It's common sense that you need a strong African Union to be able to chase these foreign people out of your continent. We cannot go to Norway and say we want to go and dig for crude oil in Norway. We cannot go to the North Sea and say we want to take crude oil from North Sea. But they are here, destroying the environment, and causing terrorist actions, terrorism, war, division, and taking the resources. We should see beyond the veil. Why can't we see beyond the veil? What is disturbing for me? So AU and ECOWAS need to be reformed. They need to perform their roles, and they should not allow the foreign powers to keep on dividing them.
The unity of Nigeria is believed by many to be non-negotiable. However, a former vice presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party, Ambassador Babangana Kingibe, who was the running mate of the late presidential candidate of the party, MKO Abiola, chose to be different with regards to what the unity of Nigeria is in reality, and therefore says that it is negotiable. There are so many divisive factors within the Nigerian space, which include religion, ethnicity, and culture, and these have to a large extent been used by politicians to weaken the cord of unity in Nigeria. Democracy as a system of government, because of the way it is practiced here in Nigeria, rather than being an instrument of cohesion, has turned out to be a big catalyst for division. The elections that the country has had since the return of democracy in 1999 have also contributed to sowing the seed of discord among the various ethnic groups for not being fair, credible, and transparent, and the worst being the 2023 elections. The reign of the former President Muhammadu Buhari, a Muslim Fulani, served to divide Nigeria along religious and ethnic lines as never before, making it difficult for the country to regain its balance. There are so many agitations currently brewing among major ethnic groups with the sole aim of seceding from the entity called Nigeria. At this juncture, what becomes of the country is unpredictable, and to this end, there is a need for an answer with regard to the way forward and out. And that brings to the fore the question of whether restructuring or breaking up is the right way to go. The country is already volatile and fitting for description as going down the drain.
Nigeria cannot be restructured. We cannot. No matter how people, no matter how they try. Because in any society, trust is very important. Trust is very important. When I was younger, we only know Hausa, Yoruba, Igbo. Okay? That doesn't mean that others don't exist. But today, I started hearing Hausa Fulani. Then after some time, we only hear Fulanis. And it's like Nigeria has been colonized by the Fulanis right now. doubt about that. We were colonized by the Arabs before. We were colonized by the British. We regained our independence. And now we have been colonized again by the Fulanis in the political sphere, economic sphere, even social sphere. We are having some parts of this country now that is run by Sharia law. Recently, some northern governors carried themselves to the United States to go and discuss each other. Nigeria is already polarized, it's already divided. Not that because I'm saying it, but because of the actions of the North. They see themselves as a monolith. They just talk like a country and take action like a country. Where is the National Security Advisor when some people gather themselves as governors and travel outside to go and perform the job of the National Security Advisor and nobody will talk? This country cannot be restructured because the cancer has eaten so deep. We allow the cancer to eat so deep that I think we've gotten to a point of no return. It's just a matter of time that there will be conflagration, because I know deeply that the Yoruba nations are ready to go. And I know that the Igbos long times are ready to go there. And you now want to sit down and say we should restructure when all the powers, all the political powers in this country is in the hands of the Fulanis. If you want to win an election in this country, you must go to them. Even when Tinubu is there right now, he's a Yoruba man, he's there. But he's not controlling the state. That's why people will come out and say that people should go and appease Boko Haram. They are still in government. So, the deep state in Nigeria are the Fulanis. They are enshrined and they are actually controlling, the state of affairs. And restructuring Nigeria is not going to be in their interest. They're not going to allow it to happen. What do you do with the constitution? Are you going to tear the paper? As long as that constitution is there, you can never restructure this country. And the people that are supposed to do it are in the legislative arms of the government. Majority are from the north. Majority are Fulanis. They're not going to allow you to reform the system, because when you do, they're going to be out of power. So it's just a wishful thinking. I know some people, even in the southwest, Yorubas, that feel that the best way to go now is to restructure. But I think the best way to go at this point is for everybody to go that way. There's no way countries within the country can continue to tolerate the Fulanis the way they are. If you have been colonized by the Arabs, you've been colonized by the British, so now we have been colonized by the Fulanis. I want a reform. What happened to last year panel report? There was a constitutional conference during Ebele Jonathan. What happened to it? Who's making sure the constitutional conference report is not utilized? Who's doing that? It's the Fulanis. And those are the things I can reform. The restructure that you're talking about, it's not going to happen. We're going to continue like this. It's either people make bold to break out of the jail, or you pretend that all is well, and you keep on pretending you can restructure this. How? It's like you said that the P5 should restructure the issue of nuclear, so they should drop their nuclear power so that the world will be safe. You want to tell the Fulani to drop their power so that Nigeria will be better. So it's not going to happen. And please don't talk about restructuring. I know a lot of people will criticize what I'm saying. It's because they don't know. I know. Then they cannot be restructured. So it's either we keep on pretending that all is well and we allow Fulanis to continue to govern us and colonize us. And others, they take your resources. 80% of the owners of your oil wealth are from the north. Now they've gotten Chinese to also colonize us. Recently, they said the Chinese said that we cannot shop in their shopping complex because we are black people. Who brought the Chinese in? So, I know a lot of people will criticize my position, but it's going to happen. Yeah, it's going to happen because the North will not allow restructuring the way you think, and we cannot continue with the status quo. So if you cannot continue with the status quo, what else? If you don't allow peaceful negotiation, then I think the alternative is maybe people will either take laws into their hands and break away from the slavery that's happened before. Apartheid. South Africa. People rose and said, no way. And they got out of it. So there's limit to which you can continue to enslave people using ego, you know. If you look at the cost of treasonable issues like terrorism and so on, one is money, two is what? Ideology, then ego. So all are present in present-day Nigeria, sliding towards the Fulanis. They have access to the money and they have ego issue. Sokoto said they are born to rule. So when you look at their psychologists and their psych, and they're talking about restructuring, if you restructure, how can they be born to rule?